Welcome to Meta Monday. Today I'm going to dig right into Lissandra, the next champion to be released for League of Legends. In this preview I'll be analyzing the uses of every ability, discussing where she'll fit into the current meta, and how I suggest you exploit her in solo queue. Her passive is Iceborne. Every 18 seconds, Lissandra's next ability costs no mana. This cooldown is reduced by 1 second whenever Lissandra impairs an enemy's movement with an ability. This does not apply to movement impairing effects from items. This has a few subtle effects on how Lissandra is played. When you first arrive in lane, you have the option of laying down some heavy harassment. Even if you completely run yourself out of mana, you know that you've at least got one spell to throw every 18 seconds. Since almost all of your abilities have some form of movement impairing effect, so long as you don't miss completely, every spell thrown will bring your next free cast a full second closer. Unfortunately, because your cooldowns are so short, you wind up burning through your mana pretty fast if you don't pace yourself well enough. Her Q is Ice Shard. Lissandra throws an ice spear that shatters when it hits an enemy, dealing magic damage and slowing for 1.5 seconds. Shards then pass through the target, dealing the same magic damage to other enemies hit. Early game, this will be your primary poke tool. Its range at first appears to be really short for a skill shot, but it deals damage behind the target it hits, effectively extending its range. Keep in mind that the range will only extend a finite distance behind the target you hit, meaning that the further away the target you hit is, the further the overall range of the spell will be. Later on, Ice Shard has three purposes. The first is as your primary damage ability. Because its base damage is so high, and its cooldown is so low, you should be throwing as many Ice Shards as you can manage in most engagements. The second is to slow down anyone that's running away from your team. Just be careful not to put yourself too far out of position by chasing. The third use comes into play when your team decides to disengage. Lissandra is an excellent choice for covering your team's flank and slowing down anyone that decides to chase. Your next ability is a Ring of Frost. Ring of Frost deals magic damage in an AoE around you, rooting any enemy in place that it hits. Ring of Frost is one of those abilities that leads to interesting choices. It serves as an excellent tool for initiation. The AoE is large enough that it's easy to lock down several people at once and force them into a fight. Unfortunately, if you choose to use it that way, you're left in the middle of the enemy team, and it's a root, not a stun. They can just turn and melt your face off if your team doesn't back you up. The other option is to stay in the back row and hold it to lock down anyone that comes after your AD carry. Your next ability is Glacial Path. Glacial Path casts an Ice Claw that deals magic damage to all enemies hit. Reactivating this ability transports Lissandra to the Claw's current location. This one has two primary uses. The first is the most obvious. You can easily use it to get over some incredibly thick walls. This is a fantastic way to retreat from situations that would get you killed otherwise. The second is for initiation. The same ability that can be used to get you out of fights can also be used to get you into range to use the rest of your kit and lock people down. Last is your ultimate, Frozen Tomb. If cast on an enemy, Lissandra freezes the target solid, stunning it for 1.5 seconds. If cast on self, Lissandra encases herself in dark ice for 1.5 seconds, becoming invulnerable and unable to take any actions. In both cases, dark ice emanates from the target, dealing magic damage and slowing enemies for 3 seconds. This ability really defines the conflict that Lissandra faces in every fight. If you find yourself as the team's initiator, it might be best for you to get in position with Glacial Path, then use your ult to keep yourself safe while the rest of your team follows. Keep in mind that it only lasts for 1.5 seconds. It's a full second shorter than Zanya's Hourglass. In the same situation, you might choose to, instead of protecting yourself, lock down an enemy carry with your ult. The confusion that your AoE causes is often enough to keep you safe. This is especially effective if you have Zanya's or if your flash is up, leaving you an alternate option for escape. The last primary use for your ult is for protecting your back row. You hold your ult until the other team is hunting down your carry, then freeze them solid and look on in pride as your team breaks them into tiny little pieces. Meh. Yeah, it's pretty good. Her abundance of CC makes her ideal to cover the flank of a disengaging team, slowing down any pursuers. Let's face it, every single ability she's got hits in some kind of AoE or another. I don't know about you, but I want to see the Lissandra, Zyra, Misfortune, and Mumu and Ziggs team. I max Ice Spear first, max Ring of Frost second, and take 1 point in Glacial Path early, maxing it last. As always, level your ultimate whenever possible. I haven't seen any consistency so far in the beta servers. Some people seem to swear by a ton of mana regen. Some people like to build pure ability power. I like items like Liandry's Torment, Rod of Ages, and Zanya's Hourglass to help me use her kit to initiate fights. I like to run magic pen marks, mana regen seals, cooldown reduction glyphs, 2 flat health quints, and a single movement quint. Why just 1 movement speed quint? Well, when you're trying to escape or chase, your only goal is to be going faster than the other guy. You can achieve that against a huge number of people with just 1 movement speed quint, so why not use the other 2 for flat HP? She has pretty poor AP ratios, so I take magic penetration instead of flat ability power, and the cooldown reduction and mana regen help me use my abilities more consistently. I experimented with 21, 5, and 4 masteries, snagging all the spell damage I could from offense, some extra health and magic resistant defense, and more mana regen and Summoner's Insight from utility. Lissandra can keep enemies locked down or slowed nearly indefinitely. This makes her superb at kiting. Glacial Path gives her some decent mobility, making her very difficult to catch. Her team fighting is pretty good, and her kit lends itself well to a wide variety of team strategies. Last, all her abilities hit in AoE, which gives her some amazing wave clear. Low base defensive stats make her easy to kill if her Glacial Path and ult are on cooldown. Low AP ratios limit her damage late game. Her base movement speed is fairly slow, and if you like to spam your abilities, you might run into some mana issues. Overall, her kit's pretty strong, and she has high utility, but watch out for gap closers like Cassidon or Akali. Thank you for watching the very first episode of Meta Monday. If you liked it, please let your voice be heard in the form of a thumbs up button. Because this is my very first try at this type of video, I would really appreciate your critique. Comment below about what you liked, and especially about what you hated. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.